Self-love to me, it's a lot of things, but it's really just owning who you are besides the mistakes, the bad decision making. It's really everything that makes you human. And self-love, it's all about accepting that you have this unique destination and not comparing your journey to anyone else's. And knowing that you are you. Everything that makes you you is meant to be there. But I can't wait to get into this episode. I'm going to be giving tips for how I've grown in my self-love. But anyways, I'm Faith Pickney, and this is Everything Grows. If you would have told my 16-year-old self that I would be where I'm at now in my self-love journey, she would probably look at you like you're crazy. She would be like, girl, you're lying right now. Like, that's not even possible. But back then, all I believed was my insecurities, my negative self-talk. That's all I knew. I couldn't understand that you can practice self-love in your everyday life and that there is a possibility to look past what society sees you as. Growing up as a young woman, there is this constant pressure to be perfect, to stand out. You have to look a certain way, especially if you're like a black girl. You have to present yourself as whatever trendy black girl persona is on the internet today. But we can only be what we are. I want to share tips with you guys on how I've been able to grow in my self-love journey. I am a work in progress, but I know that me sharing this will help somebody because self-love, it is a constant journey, and there's all these ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster. But there's like this saying about diamonds. Diamonds under pressure, diamonds form under pressure. You are a diamond, and though you may have the pressure of the world or have like the weight of the world on your shoulders, you are still you. You are still going, you are still strong, you are still beautiful. And that's all you need right now. Keep the love in your heart and let that lead the way. Here are 6 tips to help you in your self-love journey. Number 1, stop comparing yourself to other people. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's easier said than done. And I struggle with this a lot, but I know deep down that this is not something that I should be doing on a daily basis. I can be drawing inspiration from other people, but going as far as to compare myself and feel that I am inadequate because my life is not like that of someone else's, I'm doing myself such a disservice because I was not born to have the same life as other people. You were not born to have the same life as other people. Humans can be very competitive beings. I know some of us say, oh, I'm not competitive. I don't care what people do with their life. Deep down, we are. I mean, there's always a race. Back in school, there was only one valedictorian. That was somewhat of a competition, whether we cared or not. Life does feel like a competition, and it feels that everyone's trying to one up each other. Deep down, there's no need for that. I think you already have that validation within yourself. It's just a matter of you looking at your life through the lens of someone that cares for you and loves you very, very much. If I were viewing my 16-year-old self's life, I'd let them know like, your life is perfectly fine the way it is. So I think when you think of not comparing yourself to other people, think of that child, your inner child, and what you'd want to tell your inner child about loving themselves. And that will kind of be the course of what this episode is about, is protecting your inner child and being kind to yourself. It's normal to compare, but not to the point where you completely forget who you are. I've had moments, and I want to be honest with you guys, when it comes to creating my content, I get very insecure because sometimes I may not have the equipment to make that content. And I get so insecure because I'm like, well, don't you have to have the right kind of equipment to make content that's going to go viral, or not really viral, but that's going to be good enough? Content itself is what draws an audience, and it's the personality that comes along with that content. And I'm perfectly fine creating content with the equipment I have. You got to do what you got to do. And there's people on the internet that have not really had much equipment available, but they made the most of it, and they work their way up. Everything has its own process and you have to start somewhere. So that's what I think of now. And to be honest, I don't compare myself as much anymore because this is my journey and no one else can compare to the journey that you are on but you. Be inspired by those around you. Be inspired by what you see online in the media, but don't let that define you. Somebody else's success does not need to define who you are. If anything, your time is coming. And if everyone was reaching their destinations at the same time, it would kind of feel weird. So be inspired, but don't compare. This second tip is really something that I'm still working through. I'm not obligated to accept anyone's opinions. So that's the second tip is it's not caring about other people's opinions. Growing up, we had to value other people's opinions because we needed guidance through our lives and we will only know what our parents would tell us, what our environment, our family, our friends would tell us, but we really never had a mind of our own. I think if you grew up a people pleaser, this is a really hard thing to overcome is people's opinions. And I love making people feel good. I love making people feel valued. But there needs to be that boundary where you let them know they can't always force their opinions down your throat. Your life is your life. You know yourself better than anyone else does. If there's a person who's telling me what I should be doing with my life out of nowhere, like I don't like unsolicited advice, especially when it comes to what I'm doing with my life. I feel like if I'm doing just fine, if I'm in a great headspace, I really don't need anyone telling me what I should be doing. And most of the time, it could be projection. It's great that we have people in our lives who really care about us and want the best for us, but we already need to want the best for ourselves without their opinions. That's one thing that I have come to realize that not every opinion needs to be absorbed. I've struggled with this a lot because I think it's a trauma response for me to not say no. Like if someone were to ask me like, do you think this is right? Do you think this is wrong? And I'd always give them the answer they wanted simply because I wanted them to view me as a trustworthy person, as this nice person, not like this mean person. You can't please everybody. You are not going to be the superhero of everybody's lives. And that means putting your mental health first and just saying, you know what, I don't need your advice. I got this. You are the only one who can decide what's best for you. Growing pains are normal. And if we didn't make mistakes, we wouldn't be the people we are today. Tip number 3 is to allow yourself to make mistakes. I cringe at decisions I made in the past. I do cringe. I'm trying not to cringe, but you know. I mean, teenage faith was something else. I'll say that. You learn from your mistakes and then molds you into the person you are today. I know that sometimes people can make us feel really bad for our mistakes. We have to appreciate people's willingness to grow from their mistakes. That's all that really matters. I've made plenty mistakes. I've learned from them and you can become a different version of yourself within like 2 weeks. I know that people like to say, oh, well, this is who you are because they're used to this certain version of you. You have the opportunity to change yourself at any given time. Nobody's perfect. Newsflash, just because you're grown doesn't mean you know everything. You don't. You can be 18 years old. I know people say that 18 is grown, but 18 is still a child. Like I thought I was grown at 18 years old. I really don't know who I thought I was because at 18 you still have this childlike mind. I've done some things, I've said some things, some very hurtful things, and if I could go back and change it I would, but why would I want to change something that would have formed me into a better person? Just understand that everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has those days. How else would you learn? Just be thankful for all the lessons because they're making you exactly who you need to be. I've talked about body image in a previous episode. Tip number 4 is your value. Like what makes you you is not defined by your body. So your body does not determine how you view yourself in a room with other people. Some, they believe that since they are a certain size, they are better. Some since they think they are a certain size. They're just less appealing and people don't care about them. But my thing is this: I don't care what size you are. If you treat people with respect, then that's what I look at the most. And society focuses heavily on appearance. And if you're a young woman in today's society, you have to present yourself a certain way on social media, because if you don't, then it feels as if you are breaking the rules in a way. There's these distractions when it comes to accepting yourself and your whole physical being. We know society praises a certain body type, but that's society. Society does what society wants to do, and yeah, we live in this world, but we don't have to do everything according to what society says. We don't have to live up to the status quo. I would never want to be accepted by a group of people that only care about you if you're a certain size. It just goes to show you that, society can be very shallow. You're valuable, not because of your body. You have a beautiful soul and it impacts those around you. Don't hold too much value in your body, because at some point it really won't matter. Focus on the soul rather than your body. Tip 5 is one of the most important things you can do in your self love journey, and that's letting go of toxic people. This can be very hard, especially if these toxic people have been friends with you for like 10 plus years. Sometimes the people who you've known the longest can have an expiration date in your life, and it can be very hard to let go of something that has been so familiar, but it's necessary. We have to be willing to let it go. Not everyone understands how their negativity affects those around them. At times when I've been very depressed, I've really just let people down. I wasn't seeing it until later on down the line, but what you're going through does affect those around you. And I'm not here to gaslight you and say, like, stop being sad and making everyone else feel sad. No. But what I am saying is, you need to be aware of your spirit and the things you say out of your mouth when around certain people, especially those that you love. If you want to have a positive impact on people's lives, don't be so negative. And that's going to mean respecting people's boundaries and knowing when it's time to give your opinion and when it's time to just be quiet and just listen. You have to take a step back when things get a little overwhelming. People can be pretty overbearing. I think in friendships, especially like high maintenance friendships, things can get very extreme, because it's almost like you're having to focus on this other person rather than your own mental health and your own well-being. And that's a very toxic thing when you just start being there for everybody. Like, that's how I was. I was like constantly there for everybody. And there came a point where that became too much. People become very dependent on an older version of you. And the minute you change, the minute they're telling you how toxic you are, when really they may have just been using you the whole time. So it's a matter of knowing your worth and knowing that you deserve better than the treatment you're getting. Friends don't give backhanded compliments. They don't get mad at you for putting yourself first. And maybe I'm just a low maintenance friend. And maybe I feel too much pressure from high maintenance friendships. Maybe it's a trauma response for me. But I just think that you need to set those boundaries with people. And if you don't, then they're going to take advantage of you. You are allowed to move on. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to grow. If certain people can't understand that, then whatever. At least you knew that you were truthful and honest with them. Let go of toxic people and surround yourself with those that genuinely care for you, that want the best for you, and understand your feelings. The last tip, and really the most important of them all, is to be kind to yourself. There is something powerful about speaking positive words into your life. I believe that what you say out of your mouth will come to pass. And if you are telling yourself that you are worthless, that you won't be anything, that you are an embarrassment to society, 9 times out of 10, you're going to start believing that, because you say it so much. When you're constantly talking bad to yourself, You are basically talking bad to your inner child. And your inner child was a very fragile version of you. And just imagine you're telling them all those things. I don't think they'd be happy. I think they'd be really, really sad. So it's a matter of not letting those negative thoughts be verbalized. Our negative thoughts can come into our minds, but we have to push them away and understand that that has nothing to do with the goodness that's in your life already. The world can tell you something negative, but the words you speak to yourself have so much more meaning and they have so much more power. You need to start telling yourself every day that you are beautiful, that you are magnificent, that you are one of a kind, and that you are allowed to celebrate your wins, your losses. You're allowed to celebrate you. Every day is a great day to pat yourself on the back for doing what needs to be done to take care of yourself. If you've been having a rough time, pat yourself on the back for getting out of bed. Even if it was a struggle, you did it. Even if it was a struggle to go to work, you did it. There's so many things that we don't recognize, and it takes seeing the beauty in the simple things. That's what it takes. It takes realizing that there's beauty all around us. We have to absorb that beauty. Let me just be grateful right now for everything that's coming my way. God, I thank you for what you're doing in my life, and I know that your will is way better than mine. And I trust you. It's things like that I would do to be kind to myself by praying every day, asking God to give me strength, to give me patience to deal with life's challenges, especially when I'm in between seasons. But those are 6 tips that I have been practicing in my own life. I'm currently still going through the motions of learning how to love myself. I'm making the effort to become a better me. And I know you will too, because you're amazing and you are wonderful, and there's only one kind of you. One thing that I need to grow in is patience. Diamonds, they are made under pressure. I said that earlier in the episode, but diamonds are made under pressure, and you speeding up the process for things to happen for yourself, like that is not going to be sustainable. You're a diamond. There's only one like you. We all have weaknesses and strengths, and your mistakes lead to more and more self-love. The one beautiful thing about life is that you learn from it, and you should be so proud of yourself for everything you've accomplished so far and all the progress that you've made. Please acknowledge all the progress that you've made in your life, because it's worth it. Hey everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to tune into this week's episode of Everything Grows. Make sure to follow Everything Grows on Instagram at Everything Grows Podcast to keep up with me, or you can follow me on my personal page at Faith P. Marie. I love you all. Always remember, everything grows in its own time.